What if I told you every major fantasy book or series you heard of, from The Hobbit to Fourth Wing, could be explained in under 10 minutes? Let me know how many of these you have read. The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. So this is where modern fantasy began. The Hobbit is a charming adventure about a reluctant burglar and a dragon's hoard. Now, The Lord of the Rings follows Frodo, a humble hobbit tasked with destroying a world-ending ring. It has epic battles, ancient lore, and a journey that shaped an entire genre. So if you like fantasy at all, you owe Tolkien everything. Also, fun fact, did you know that scene where Eragon kicks that helmet, he actually breaks his toe? Yes, this was a stupid insert. A Game of Thrones. Now think of Lord of the Rings, but grittier, bloodier, and nobody's safe. A Game of Thrones kicks off a brutal power struggle between noble families where honor gets you killed and dragons are real eventually. Politics, betrayal, weird family dynamics. This is the series that changed fantasy forever and is famous for not being finished. The Wheel of Time. So you kinda have 4 farm kids get swept into a world-spanning battle between light and shadow. Does it sound familiar? Yeah, it does kinda. But the Wheel of Time takes it further. It has reincarnation, magic. Only women can control the magic. It is massive and messy, but it's beloved for a reason. And I have to say this, I'm still disappointed they actually cancelled the Wheel of Time adaptation. Season 3 was so good. Remember Sauron and Thorn? So before Game of Thrones there was the Dragonbone chair. It is Ted Williams' epic blend of fairy tale wonder with slow burn political intrigue. It's about a humble kitchen boy that gets swept into a war that will change the world forever. It's a dense series, it's really emotional, and it's massively influential. George R. R. Martin called it a key inspiration for A Song of Ice and Fire. Also, it's just me that thinks it's so hilarious how obsessed classic fantasy is with farm boys and kitchen boys and stuff like that. I still love them though. The Kingkiller Chronicles. So the Name of the Wind follows Quati? I don't know. I have never listened to the audiobook.
We are looking at how to pronounce the name Quoth,
who's a prodigy musician, a magician, and a killer allegedly. This series is a lyrical, intimate, and is obsessed over by fans for the past 50 years or so. But it's also famously unfinished, with book 3 stuck in limbo for over a decade, and yes, the author's gotten more attention for live streams and drama than writing lately. Okay, fun fact, Lattes literally promised more than 1,000 days ago to deliver 1 chapter to the public of book 3, and he even got his fans to donate, and he still hasn't done it. Why? A Wizard of Earthsea. Before Hogwarts, there was Earthsea. So this is a coming-of-age story following Ged, a boy who becomes a powerful wizard by accidentally unleashing a shadow that nearly destroys him. So this is a poetic, deeply philosophical, and explores balance and identity. And this series is quite revolutionary. And by the way, probably more thoughtful than most fantasy we have today. Harry Potter, the boy who lived. Harry Potter defined a generation, you know, magic schools, chosen ones, and midnight book releases. So this is a foundational read for modern fantasy readers, but it's also become known for being deeply controversial, with the author's use sparking major backlash. Love it or hate it, it is a cultural landmark. Also, can anyone tell me why we're getting a new adaptation of Harry Potter? I don't think anyone asked for it. Mistborn. So, what if the Dark Lord won? So Mistborn flips the chosen one trope and drops you into a world ruled by a god tyrant. So there's a magical highs, there's metal-based powers, and some amazing plot twists. This series is fast, it's clever, and it's pure Brandon Sanderson with his hard magic system. So I would say it's perfect for fantasy beginners and magic system nerds alike. The Stormlight Archive. Welcome to Roshar. It's a storm-ravaged world with magical swords, living armor, and broken heroes. So The Way of Kings, the first book, kicks off Sanderson's magnus opus. It is massive in scope, packed with lore, and full of emotional damage characters trying to do the right thing. This series is intimidating, but it's also worth the climb. Also, I forgot to mention that Brandon Sanderson is literally the only author in this video that writes faster than any human in the world can read. He is insane. The First Law trilogy. So, what if fantasy heroes were awful people and you kinda loved them? So The First Law is a brutal, hilarious, and deeply cynical series. There's no chosen one here, there's just torturers, mercenaries, and manipulators in a world where nothing goes as planned. You come here for the grit, and you'll probably stay for the character work because it's next level. Yes, I'm standing in the garage. Just wanted to say, Age of Madness, the second First Law trilogy, is one of the best trilogies of all time. But maybe I'll explain a bit more about that one in a different video. Alright, let's talk a bit about romantasy. Fourth Wing. I read this one. It's Hunger Games meets How to Train Your Dragon with extra spice, and no, it's not good. I hate it. Fourth Wing throws you into a deadly war college where dragon riders bond, battle, and let's just say they get very emotional, intense. The dragons are sassy, the romance is steamy, and yes, there are horny dragons. So Booktube couldn't get enough of this book for some reason. Can anyone tell me why horny dragons is a popular thing in fantasy nowadays? I don't understand it. Enough of romantasy. The Chronicles of Narnia. Step through the wardrobe into one of fantasy's most iconic worlds. The Chronicles of Narnia blends Christian allegory with magical creatures, epic battles, and talking animals. Chronicles. It's a whimsical and sometimes weird and endlessly nostalgic series. So Aslan is Jesus, the White Witch is terrifying, and Turkish Delight is still really gross. Seriously, I don't think I'll ever get over the fact that Edmund literally sold his siblings for a box of Turkish Delight. In my head, that plot just never made any sense. The Lies of Loch Lamora. Imagine Ocean 11 in a grimy fantasy Venice. So The Lies of Loch Lamora follows a con artist and his gang as they scam nobles and dodgy crime lords. It's a slick, witty, and brutally clever series, and fans, myself included, love it. But beware, this series is still not finished and we've been waiting for over a decade. There seems to be a bit of a trend here. Now before we continue, I have a question for you guys. Out of Game of Thrones, Kingkiller Chronicles, and Gentleman Bastards, which series do you actually think is ever going to be finished? My take is that I do think Gentleman Bastards has the best chance, but I'm not confident in any of them. Feels so sad for these fandoms, man. The fifth season. So the fifth season is a brutal and genre-bending story about a woman searching for her daughter in a world torn by seismic catastrophes. It's a bold and tragic story that has a really interesting structure, especially the first book. And this series has 3 Hugo Awards to prove how amazing it is. So it's definitely one of the most influential modern fantasy series of all time. Mate, the sun is shining in my eyes. I only tried the first book in the Broken Nose trilogy. Unfortunately, it wasn't for me. Gardens of the Moon, Malazan Book of the Fallen. So thrown into the deep end, Gardens of the Moon is the first book in Malazan Book of the Fallen, the most complex, intimidating fantasy series ever written in my opinion. You have gods that meddle, empires clash, and magic is wild. This series is incredibly dense, chaotic, and utterly brilliant according to its fans. But this series is not for the casual reader. Now, I've literally tried Malazan twice. I just don't think my IQ is high enough to understand the series. And yes, I'm recording this in the toilet. Dungeon Crawler Carl. Imagine if Earth got vaporized and survivors are dumped into a deadly televised dungeon crawl for the sole purpose of entertaining aliens. Yes, it's that kind of series. So Dungeon Crawler Carl is a bloody, really funny, and full of monsters, loot, and sarcasm. You follow Carl and his cat Princess Donut, who are gaming icons now. So kind of think of Hunger Games, but with more stupid jokes and gaming stats. Out of all the books explained in this video, Dungeon Crawler Carl is without a doubt the craziest. It is wild. Eragon, The Inheritance Cycle. So the first book, Eragon, was written by a teenager and is a classic chosen one fantasy. It's about a farm boy that finds a dragon egg and becomes the last hope against an evil empire. So a lot of people say it's really derivative, sure, but it's also a massively beloved series with dragons, sword fights, and ancient secrets. And also the series kind of launched a generation of young fantasy readers and writers. The Witcher Saga. The Witcher follows Geralt of Rivia as he slays beasts, dodges politics, and stumbles into destiny. So this is a gritty, philosophical, and full of moral grey areas. And also, the game made the books even more famous, and the show made it maybe not as famous. But the books are loved by everyone. Okay, we're nearing the end of this video, and yes, I have almost explained every single book on my shelf and every single popular fantasy book in the whole world. Okay, not really, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna even get close, am I? Discworld. Imagine a flat world with 4 elephants, 1 giant turtle. That is Discworld for you, which is a satirical fantasy at its finest. There's a lot of magic, politics, and absurdity across dozens, or I think like 42 books that are loosely connected. In this universe, you got death as a fan favorite, wizards who are terrible at magic, and a whole lot of truth hidden in these jokes. Terry Pratchett was a genius. Now, I'm not a Discworld expert, but if you want to try Discworld, I would recommend starting with the book Mort. Legends and Latte. Imagine an orc that hangs up her sword to open a coffee shop. That is the book. Yes, that's literally the book. Okay, maybe there's a bit more. Legends and Latte is a cozy fantasy at its finest. It has low stakes, found family, cinnamon rolls, and just a touch of romance. It's kind of like a warm hug with caffeine. No, there's no battle, there's just coffee brews and really good vibes. Assassin's Apprentice. Assassin's Apprentice is the start of Robin Hobb's legendary realm of the Elderlings. It's a slow, emotional, and quietly devastating story. No, there's no flashy magic here, it's just raw, character-driven stories that is so good. And I will die on this hill. Robin Hobb should be as famous as George R. R. Martin. She is a genius. The Dark Tower. The Dark Tower is Stephen King's fantasy epic. It's part western, part horror, part multiverse, part fever dream. It is wild. So the book is about the gunslinger Roland, who chases a man in black across a dying world that ties into almost every other Stephen King book. It's a really weird, ambitious, and totally unique series, and personally is one of my favorites of all time. That's it. That's all I could fit in, but I know I missed a lot of different series. Now my question to you is, do you want to read any of these books with me? Because I actually do have a book club on Fable that's totally free, open for everyone, and if you want to support me and actually help me make videos like this that take a lot of time, then please consider checking out my Patreon. Thanks for watching.